Hello, happy Easter. I wanted to read you a story. It's about two rabbits and the illustrations are by my friend Linda. I hope you enjoy it. Jumper and Wobble are two rabbits who live in the wild coppice and are the very best of friends. Jumper is a good little rabbit, but Wobble, well, he does tend to get into trouble sometimes, even when he's trying hard not to. This is the story of how Wobble got a big surprise and of how he learnt that he could always trust his best friend, Jumper. Mr. Rabbit, Jumper's daddy, had made a wonderful garden that Jumper and Wobble could play in together. It had a bed of pretty flowers, a vegetable patch, a pond, and a shed. Next to the shed was an old wooden wheelbarrow, and in the middle of the lawn was a bench where Mr. Rabbit liked to sit. One day Jumper and Wobble were playing near the pond when Wobble noticed something very strange. In the vegetable patch were hundreds and hundreds of sunflowers. They did look very pretty, but Wobble wondered why they were there. Surely the vegetable patch should have vegetables growing in it. How very odd. "Why have you planted so many sunflowers?" he asked Mr. Rabbit. Mr. Rabbit replied, "Ah, little Wobble, one day you'll understand." Wobble was even more curious now. "Why has your father planted so many sunflowers?" he asked Jumper. "They are for something really special," said Jumper, "and when you see it for yourself, then you'll understand." "But I don't want to wait. I want to know now," said Wobble. "Besides, I don't think that there is any good reason for growing sunflowers. Carrots are much better." "But Wobble, just because you don't understand now doesn't mean that it won't make sense later. You just have to wait and be patient. My father has a good reason for growing the sunflowers. That's all you need to know." "Well, I think it's silly," said Wobble, and he hopped off. On the Friday, feeling sorry for the things that he had said, Wobble came back to the garden and got a terrible shock. All the sunflowers were gone, and Jumper and Mr. Rabbit were nowhere to be found. Even the old wheelbarrow was missing. Wobble felt terribly sad. The patch where the sunflowers had been growing was all spoilt, and where was Jumper? Wobble hopped off home again, a very unhappy and lonely bunny. A few days later, the wild coppice was having a grand fair. All the animals were dressed up and there was to be a magnificent parade. Everyone was so excited. Everyone except Wobble. He missed his friend and nothing seemed right without him. Feeling dreadfully miserable, he went along to the fair because he just didn't know what else to do. And who should be at the front of the parade? Mr. Rabbit, who was pushing the wheelbarrow. Except that the wheelbarrow was completely covered in sunflowers. Wobble couldn't believe his eyes. It looked like it was made of gold, with the flowers glowing in the sunshine, and sitting in the wheelbarrow was Jumper, king of the parade. "Come up here, Wobble," said Jumper. "There's room for you too, with me." Jumper put out a paw and pulled his friend up into the beautiful wheelbarrow. "I'm sorry I was so rude about the sunflowers. I just couldn't guess what you were going to do with them," said Wobble. "But I told you that they were for something special. My father always has wonderful ideas and only wants the best for everyone. You should have trusted him." "I know," said Wobble. "I'm sorry." I'll always trust you now, or at least I'll always try." "I know," said Jumper, "and even when you don't succeed, I will always be your friend." This is not the end of the story, though. In many ways, it's just the beginning. Have a lovely Easter, everyone.